Hi, I'm Litha Maqungo, a communication specialist at Metropolitan Get Up, and I'm so excited to be joining you today. And don't forget to follow Met Get Up for their updates and the incredible information we'll give you, which is real money talk, these life hacks that are absolutely incredible, and so much more. So I'm going to be talking to you today about side hustles, and I'm going to get straight into it. I think when we hear side hustle, we immediately think of the buzzword term, and we think of the Twitter conversations that we've had. But in fact, the term has actually been around since the 1950s, when there was a major recession and people had to do other things to bolster their income. And I think now that we're going into the post-pandemic period where people have lost jobs or gotten reduced hours, we are now more than ever in tune with the idea that we need to have more than one hustle. You can no longer wake up and go to one job and just do that, because there's just too much going on in the world. I think it's incredibly important to frame the discussion of side hustling within the context of what the youth unemployment rate is in South Africa. If I'm not mistaken, the unemployment rate for the first quarter in 2021 is about 43.6% for the youth. And that is an official figure, which is always stripped of certain factors. So the real figure could be a lot higher. And if you think about the fact that 9.3% of graduates are unemployed, that's also really, really scary. So side hustling is a way to get yourself some experience, some skills before you get into the working world, or if you're in the working world, to sort of fast track your life to where you want it to be. So I'm going to dive into what I think are 3 ways that you can get hustling without breaking the bank, and also get a really high return on investment for yourself. But also, I want to also say that it's really important to remember that side hustles look great on your CV. And we've moved away from a very traditional get out of university, go to one job and stay there forever. I think globally there's been a shift into realizing that you can be your own boss in whatever sense. So even if you're working within a company, which I think if you look at something like Metropolitan Get Up, where it's a fully remote team, you can still have a lot of autonomy, and you're no longer held by the idea that you have to show up at your desk at 9 o'clock, pack up your computer at 5 o'clock, and that's done. Everything is changing, and the ability to work wherever in the world, bar the travel restrictions, and to set your own hours is really empowering if you know what to do with it. I think the biggest takeaway with being a multi-hyphenate or having different hustles is that you need to be able to take all of them seriously, and also to differentiate between something that's a hustle and something that is genuinely a hobby. The mistake that I think a lot of youth are making, and that we've been sort of conditioned to, is everything has to lead to a paycheck. So get comfortable with having hobbies that lead to absolutely nothing but pure enjoyment, but also then take your side hustle seriously. If you're going to be an influencer, if you're going to be a blogger, if you're going to start a business doing people's hair, then take it seriously. Get your name out there, register your domains. Let's take it step by step and be taken seriously as hustlers. So I think what I've just said actually leads you perfectly into, I think, one of the most popular side hustles of 2021, which is that of being an influencer. And I think when you think of an influencer, you think of Mihlali Ndamase, you think of these really big names. Even if you think of a designer like Richard Mnisi, who's an influencer in his own right, you think it has to be on this magical grand scale. But it doesn't. And this is what I think people should realize, is that you can also get brand deals, you can work with people at a smaller level, but there's 3 really important things that you need to be aware of when you start going into the world of influencing. I think the number 1 thing is, don't think of yourself as an influencer. The most important sort of realization that I've had working in media and working with influencers is that they are defined by a particular purpose. Are you a designer? Do you have a business doing something? You have another purpose, but you can't be an influencer just for the sake of it. Do you have an underlying message that you want to tell people about? Are you passionate about beauty? Do you want to talk about your makeup skills? Are you passionate about cooking? Do you want to show people new recipes, new restaurants, new cooking hacks? Are you passionate about business? Do you want to show people what it takes to start a business, the day-to-day of being a hustler, an entrepreneur? The biggest thing is that you cannot simply take your phone, take a couple of selfies and decide, now I'm an influencer. You have to choose your messaging and be very deliberate with it. I think people also get very stuck in the idea that they want to just live this very glamorous life, and that in itself will make them an influencer. You can be a lifestyle influencer, but that's really difficult to get people to work with you then. So choose something that you also really care about, because people resonate with that. People can see something being put on from a mile away, which leads me to my second thing, which is be consistent. I know that when you are trying out a side hustle, sometimes other things take priority, and it can be incredibly difficult to make your side hustle your number one. But in order to become a sort of valuable influencer in a space, or to work with companies, you need to be posting on a regular basis. You need to be communicating whatever you're communicating to people in a very consistent manner. It's obviously not the easiest. It's easier said than done, but having a plan weekly or even monthly and saying you want to hit these points makes it really easier for you to just put the structure into place. And then I think also the other thing is that you need to understand the business of it. So understand the back end. Look at what the professional dashboard tells you on Instagram. Look at what your TikTok views are saying to you. Look at what your most popular content is. It's really hard to just take really good pictures and then sell that. You're selling yourself as a business. So you need to say, this is what you'll get for working with me. So that's, I think, one of the most interesting parts of doing it. And I think influencers don't speak about that enough. They just sort of post beautiful images, and they don't really have to tell you that it's very, very hard. Which brings me to my third point, which is that there are incredible free tools available for everyone to use. So starting out to being an influencer, I think, is one of my favorite side hustles for people, in the sense that it is probably one of the easier things that you can do. We have an array of social media out there, from TikTok to Instagram to Facebook. We have an incredible array of social media that's available to us readily, and it's free. I think it's just realizing what tools people use to take it to the next level. So something like Canva, where you can design animated Instagram posts, where you can design like almost anything under the sun, and it's got a completely free component. That's one of your biggest weapons. And if you're building a media kit, which you will need as an influencer, so brands know how much you charge per post, what it's like to work with you, that's a great tool. Visco and Lightroom for editing are also incredible. They're also free. I mean, there are paid elements to it, but when you're starting out and you are really putting everything you have into it, I think those are really good starting points. And of course, it's realizing that there's a secret trick now. Not everyone wants to work with people with 200,000 followers, 1 million followers. Those are macro influencers. Those are basically celebrities. So you can have 2,000-3,000 followers and people will want to work with you. The biggest takeaway from that, though, is that you have to work with people that are authentically aligned with you. It's no point trying to work with Gucci when you actually shop at Mr. Price. I know it's aspirational, but genuinely go out to Mr. Price, say, I've been doing all this content anyway, wearing your clothes, and it's free. Here's our media kit. Here's some of the things that people have said and the results that we've gotten just from what I post on a daily basis. Let's work together. And I think the main thing with whatever hustle you are going to do is be willing to work for free in the beginning. I know that there is a lot of value that we can derive from our work, but everyone starts somewhere. And in the beginning, even if you're not working for a lot of money, before you can start saying yes to the big deals, you're probably going to have to say please to a lot of free deals. And then as you get bigger and bigger, you obviously align your worth and your rates with the content you're putting out. But in the beginning, it's okay to just say, I'll show up and I'll take some nice pictures. But then as time goes on, you are putting in time. Your time is money. And also learn how to negotiate. Everyone's willing to negotiate if you know how to do it properly. I recently managed to attend a talk where I got to listen to Litha Maqungo, an incredible fashion influencer who actually explained her origins and what she really does and why she started posting on Instagram, and it sort of exploded into something much bigger than what she anticipated. But the biggest takeaway from the conversation was that she started posting on Instagram because she's in fashion school, and it was a way for her to build basically like a lookbook. It was never about, making money and sort of getting brand deals. But as it's grown, she's been able to say yes to certain deals and to say no to certain deals. And I think if you look at most influencers that have sort of become a really important part of the landscape, it's always started with a very particular purpose, which is to say something. So say what you want to say, but remember that it's also about you having a lot of fun. People can tell and they relate to it, and they relate to authenticity at every single level. Another avenue of side hustling that I think has been around for a long time is the hospitality industry. And obviously with the COVID-19 pandemic, things have shifted slightly, and I think that's been a really different landscape that people are entering. But as we get back to a normal sort of way of life and things changing, hospitality is one of the best ways for young people to make money, but I think also to make connections. Having worked as a waitress and managing restaurants at some point in my lifetime, I can say to you that the number of business cards that I've received, the number of people asking what I'm doing, what's next for me, it was more valuable than the money in itself, because that's a network that you can tap into in whatever you're doing next and what your next step is. And even if you're going to be an accountant, trust me, even bosses of accounting firms have to go out, even line managers, and you have no idea who you'll be serving. And I think putting your best foot forward there is incredible. And one of the best parts about being in the hospitality industry is that it's a really flexible sort of industry by nature. And I think for me, the tips that I would give is that if you're going to go into the side hustle, it's that show up as your best self. So even if you're going to an interview, every day that you're at work, you don't know how that day could potentially change the trajectory of everything else. And I think great service it's never going to be overlooked. It's not just about the money. It really is about the impression you leave on people. You'd be surprised how often you can bump into people once you leave the profession. And I think it's also, ironically, if you really like food or you really like a certain aspect of the hospitality industry, is lean into a environment that makes you happy, because then you'll see that you come across as happier, and then your hustle just feels a lot more seamless. And I will say it, unfortunately, it is hard work. There is no shortcut when it comes to the side hustle. You will work 16-hour days, sometimes doing double shifts. You don't get to sit down much. And it's great to have the money at the end of the day, but also just remember that it's a great life experience, because it teaches you so much about being able to handle people. I think the skills that I learned from being in the hospitality industry are with me now, even as a communication specialist. There's so much about client facing and client servicing that mirrors being what a waitress does. And I think even being a host or something in that realm, you really can't underestimate the value of this kind of profession. So there's always jobs available, and I think, you know, popping your CV to a restaurant, especially when you look out when the new ones are opening. Always look out for the new ones and the smaller ones, because they're looking for staff, and they'll probably be an opportunity to grow within that side hustle. And always think about the next step. It is a side hustle, but there is massive opportunity in everything that you do. I feel like I've spoken a whole lot, but I think the biggest takeaway that I would like anyone to have, especially as somebody that I think for my entire life, essentially, from working in TV when I was about 13, 14 years old, to working in hospitality as a waitress, to sort of doing everything. I was a tutor at university. I know the hustle because I've lived it, and I continue to live it. And I think the biggest thing is to be able to say that you want to do something, and also connecting with people who are like-minded. You'll be really surprised how many people are willing to help you out when you simply say, hey, I'm really keen to do this. What are the first steps? And there's loads of free things. The favorite thing that I've ever heard is that almost everything is Googleable. So if you don't know, simply head to Google and just ask, how do I become an influencer? And obviously side hustling is very different to becoming a brain surgeon. But you've got to start somewhere. So if you've got any questions, please feel free to reach out to us, and remember to follow @MetGetUp for more real talk and money conversations with real people. Thank you so much.